Donald Trump can say what he likes about the Democrats pushing to have illegal immigrants get healthcare services. But if the Republicans don't do something pretty soon, everybody's health bills under what used to be known as the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, in fact, still is known as that, are going to rise exponentially in January.
Sarah, good evening.
Hello, Kate.
Well, you'll be pleased that hopefully services will be back to normal soon. Certainly, if the Senate passing a spending bill means the government will be reopened. It's being billed as a very big victory today. Donald Trump made an appearance on ESPN's Pat McCaffrey. Do you know what? I can't say his name properly. Pat McAfee. Is that right, Sarah? ESPN's a Pat McAfee show. It's a bit of a mouthful, whatever it is. Anyway, in which he provided an update on the shutdown.
They tried to basically renegotiate the great big beautiful deal. They weren't able to get it. And now they said, let's close up our country and we'll see if we can get it. But again, getting it for people that came into our country illegally from prisons, from gangs, from mental institutions, from, places that you don't want, and giving them think of it, $1.5 trillion in medical costs and things. You just can't do this. You can't do it. And it ruins it for everybody else. So they were not successful in renegotiation, and it looks like it's going to be opened up. But you're right. It's the House has to vote, and then, of course, I have to sign it.
Well, who'd have thought a sports network would get the scoop on Donald Trump on the government shutdown? That was right. ESPN's Pat McAfee show. Insane. Sarah Baxter, does this mean that the Democrats have effectively caved in to Donald Trump? 8 Democrat senators voted with Republicans. Have they come under fire for this?
Yeah, I don't know why the Democrats are forming a circular firing squad over this, because in fact, in my view, they've won. And I'll explain why. It's because actually Donald Trump can say what he likes about the Democrats pushing to have illegal immigrants get healthcare services. But if the Republicans don't do something pretty soon, everybody's health bills under what used to be known as the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, in fact, still is known as that, are going to rise exponentially in January and disproportionately in the red states, in poor, underserved areas where they vote MAGA Republican. And this is a ticking time bomb for the Republicans. And I think the Democrats, in those 8 Democrats in the Senate, shrewdly figured out that they had got as much as they could out of the shutdown, put the screws on the Republicans for this healthcare conundrum. And actually, if it had dragged on towards Thanksgiving, the Democrats would have been blamed for disrupting everybody's family holidays. Thanksgiving at the end of and flights are in chaos at the moment because of the shutdown. And that's why the pressure was on to settle. So right now, the Democrats have sort of caved, but they've left the Republicans owning the future problem. And they've drawn attention to it and made sure that the Republicans are the people in the frame if and when those health bills rise in January.
Interesting. Okay. How quickly will all this happen now? It has to follow a process, doesn't it, Sarah?
Yeah, it does. Now that it's passed the Senate, the bill moves to the House of Representatives. That's going to be tomorrow. And so we'll know if government's reopening after that vote. And it probably will, because it needs a simple majority and the Republicans have it. So we'll see. But at the same time, it's going to take a long time to sort out the flight chaos, to make sure that the food stamp payments are resumed and that federal workers get paid. So there's a lot to unravel here. So it'll take a while.
I was just reading the comments of John Fetterman, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania. He voted on several occasions for a continuing resolution to end the shutdown. He then decided to break from his party and join members of his caucus to pass a new bill to reopen government, saying, "My party crossed a line." Speaking to Fox News, "It's only wrong to shut our government down, and I'm relieved the people now are going to get paid and fed." And the sort of spikiest issue of all, and rightly so, perhaps this is to be expected, Sarah, but the one issue that we kept returning to again and again was those SNAP payments, those food stamps.
Yeah, and it was getting embarrassing for Republicans and Democrats. Democrats don't like to hurt the poorest in society, and Republicans felt it was a very bad look, particularly after getting a drubbing in the recent elections in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, to have recipients of food stamps, the poorest of the poor, going hungry, including their children, while there was partying going on at Mar-a-Lago. So I think both sides will be relieved that the standoff is now over or nearly over. But, there are interesting things ahead because once Congress reopens, they're going to have to seat a new Democrat, and there might be a majority for further investigations of the Epstein files. So that could be interesting.
We watch with bated breath on that one. Let's talk about the Victory Day speech then. November the 11th marks Veterans Day in the United States, but President Trump has floated the idea of renaming the day to Victory Day for World War I. Trump mentioned this as he addressed veterans earlier today.
I was recently at an event and I saw France was celebrating Victory Day, but we didn't. And I saw France was celebrating another Victory Day for World War II. And other countries were celebrating. They were all celebrating. We're the one that won the wars. And I said, from now on, we're going to say Victory Day for World War I and World War II. And we could do for plenty of other wars, but we'll start with those two. Maybe someday somebody else will add a couple of more because we won a lot of good ones.
Well, OK, interesting. We should ask why he wants to rename the day, just to make it absolutely clear that it was the US who won the wars for Europe, Sarah.
Yeah, it's like renaming the Pentagon Department of War, etc. It sounds more martial. He likes that. But the other thing is he doesn't really like veterans who died. I mean, it's a solemn day of remembrance at Arlington Cemetery. His former chief of staff, John Kelly, who was the decorated general who had lost a child, a son serving in the military, said Trump regarded people who died fighting wars as suckers and losers. That's a direct quote.
Wow.
And Trump denied it, of course, but this came from John Kelly himself, who was Trump's chief of staff in his first administration. And I think Trump only wants to celebrate good news about America, which is great. But where does it leave, say, the veterans of the Vietnam War, who are still very much alive, some of whom have, given, a lot to the war, might, still be disabled and all the rest. Where does it leave the veterans of the Iraq wars and the Afghan wars? I mean, these are, it's saying, oh, well, are the only wars that count now World War I and World War II? I mean, our own Remembrance Day celebrations are, for everybody. It's for all the veterans of all the wars. And that's, I think, how a lot of veterans are going to feel it should remain in America. So he's just announced it. Be interesting to see how it goes down, because a lot of veterans support Donald Trump.
OK, well,
they like the idea of Victory Day, and with that. But it's peculiar, and of course he said he's following the British example among others. But we call it Remembrance Day, we call it Armistice Day, and we do have a Victory in Europe Day, which is not, later in the year.
Yeah.
And France admittedly does call it Victory Day. And I mean, I actually have an uncle who died in the resistance, so for France, and not everybody in France fought.
No,
put it that way.
No. There's a reason that in certain vintage TV shows they're called the cheese-eating surrender monkeys, isn't there? Now, during his speech, Trump went on a rant about veterans, blaming Joe Biden's administration for how they're looked after. Let's just have a listen to this.
And the other thing is we fired thousands of people who didn't take care of our great veterans. They were sadists, they were sick people, they were thieves, they were everything you want to name, and we got rid of over 9,000 of them. And then when Biden came in, he hired them back, many of them, but we got rid of them. And I think we got rid of them permanently. We replaced them with people who love our veterans, not people who our sick people.
What does Trump mean by that, Sarah? What's wrong with how our veterans have been, or how veterans in the United States have been treated?
I'm not quite sure what he was alluding to, but of course, the Veterans Service is a big, sprawling bureaucracy, not least because America has a huge number of veterans and they get subsidized medicine through the special system, not unlike our own NHS, by the way, although they would rather go to the barricades and admit it. And they get this kind of public health system, which leads to a sprawling bureaucracy. And of course, a lot of checks are issued and God knows what. So I think he's probably talking about that kind of, world that he's been trying to take a chainsaw to and cut down on staff. But it's kind of weird, isn't it? I really process that speech yet.
No, it was a little bit all over the place. Let's talk about the BBC then. As you know, Sarah, Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for over $1 billion due to a misleading edit in a Panorama documentary. Showed the president encouraging his supporters to storm the Capitol on January the 6th riots. It was wrong. The BBC has sort of apologised, but they've got to come back to Trump by Friday with their offerings. How much has this made a splash in US media outlets? How many people are talking about this over there?
Sorry to say, not enough, probably, from the BBC's point of view, but it's partly because America's been here before. Basically, this is a shakedown by Donald Trump, excuse me, which he's already successfully conducted against ABC and CBS. So the fact that he's now got the BBC in his crosshairs is just par for the course. He's got yet another media scalp, or is going strongly after one. And I suspect he can say things. The BBC has a big audience. It has BBC America in the US. And Trump's style is to say things like, nice little BBC you've got over here. Are you sure you want it? And this case is not going to go to court. If it went to court in Britain, the BBC would win. Trump would lose. It's more like, just give us the money and I'll go away quietly kind of thing, because actually he's already walked off with 15 million from CBS News and got a scalp in terms of the head of CBS News that departed, and a new person is now running that. And he also successfully sued George Stephanopoulos of ABC News. So he's collecting media scalps, and the BBC, I'm afraid, has got a hard road ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, the chances of Trump have been played down somewhat. He's filed the suit would file the suit in Florida. There were strong free speech rules in the States, so that counts against him. Filing it in the States, full stop, counts against him. It'd be better to file it.
Much more difficult in the States.
Yeah.
So than in Britain, but of course in Britain he'd have a very he wouldn't have a very sympathetic judge or jury.
Yeah, and if the BBC did want to make it all go away, which several of these other networks have done, so they've settled out of court, which is really difficult for the BBC to do, when that means that BBC taxpayers are settling out of court on behalf of the BBC. It all comes back to us. So careful decisions need to be made. Sarah, always a great pleasure to speak to you. Thank you. Sarah Baxter, Director of the Marie Colvin Centre for International Reporting. Great to have you with us.